What is going on, guys? This is the Bogey Free podcast for the Memorial. I am your host, Evan Cheney, today joined by my co-host, Matt Jones. How you doing today, Matt?
Not too bad, Ev. What's going on?
I mean, I can't complain. Golf was pretty much break even, which is better than losing.
Yep, that's a fair point.
Baseball's going horrendous as we speak. Yeah, Matt Holliday broke the slate. He has 2 home runs by the third inning actually. So yeah, that's a disaster. I just at this point we're 53 minutes into the slate, and I just want to talk golf. No more of that baseball crap for tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here for, right? So
yeah, of course. So yeah, before we as per usual, before we get into the tournament, let's talk about last week's events. Let's break that down for a sec.
Yeah, sure. So Kevin Kisner has sort of been knocking on the door for a couple events this year so far, and finally broke through. I think he won a couple of years ago, but it was like one of those like RSM Classic or one of those like October, November tournaments. So good for him. He finally came through and won after a couple of years. And your boy John Rahm, runner up. And there's still people that fade him. Like, I don't understand. It's just incredible to me. I feel like his ownership was, I forget exactly where he ended up last week, but it was like shockingly low. And I was very disappointed in people.
Well, I mean, as we're seeing right here, it's definitely going to make up this week.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, his ownership's going to catch up.
Yeah.
To where it should be.
And,
so yeah, let's talk about this week's tournament. We're at the Memorial at Merrifield Village Golf Club.
Yep, over in Ohio.
Ohio.
Yep. Geez. Jack Nicklaus's place. So we're finally back to the par 72s, which is nice. So we got a couple extra par 5s back in there. I think it's like a shade under 7,400 yards, so not terribly long, sort of average for a par 72. And it's just, this is one of the more like driving accuracy heavy sort of results that I've seen this season. Looking back like the last 10 years or so, the winners average like 13th in driving accuracy. So it's definitely something that we want to pay attention to this week. And then obviously, I mean, it kind of always goes without saying that greens and regulation are pretty important. But these are some of the fastest greens on tour. Probably the Masters and the Players are probably like the top 3. So scrambling will be important too, because they will run some approach shots off the green and have to get up and down for pars and stuff. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as well.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, greens and regulations pretty much. That's like an every week deal. Are we looking at driving distance at all? Doesn't seem like it.
No, I mean it's fine if if they're accurate too. A little distance always helps, obviously, but I mean, looking back at like I said, the last 10 years, the only guys who have even like come close to sort of being up at the top in driving distance and won, it's just Tiger. Like, he won this tournament twice, and he was also like second or third in driving accuracy the years that he won. So he was just bombing the ball and hitting every fairway, which is just a very, very Tiger thing to do.
Yeah, well, we see what's happened to him.
No more, but it used to be a very Tiger thing. I mean, he hasn't won. We're talking like 2009 and 2012, I think, were his 2 wins. So, but yeah, I mean, distance is always going to help. If you can hit the fairways, it's always going to help. But if it's a guy who's just spraying it all over, it's not something I'm interested in this week.
Okay, so jeez, the mic just decided to act up. It's unfortunate for real. So yeah, let's jump into some of these let's jump into some of these guys here. We'll talk about our 10K and up golfers first. We have Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, and Hideki Matsuyama in this price range. Oh, actually, before we get into that,
Uh-oh.
FanDuel's golf product. They just redid it to where it's no longer like the rounds. Like you're not picking a 1 to 2. You're not picking 4 1 to 2 guys and then 4 3 and 4 guys. You're just picking 8 golfers, which I like. It's definitely great because I think it's a little better than DraftKings roster construction only because they have 8 guys, and on DraftKings you have 6, so you could become more unique.
Right.
The lineup sharing stuff isn't as much of an issue when you have 8 golfers.
Yeah, for sure.
So I definitely like that. But I really wish they adopted one of the things that Fantasy Draft does. And Fantasy Draft has it, I don't know if you know, but like Fantasy Draft has it to where you draft 7 golfers. You put 7 golfers on your team. Jeez. Yeah, this thing's going off again. You put 7 golfers on your team, but only 6 of them count toward your score.
Right.
The lowest scoring guy is just, he's cut off. He's cut out of there. So
yeah, I mean, we spoke about FanDuel sort of when they released it and everything, and I hadn't put any money on it or anything. I haven't looked at it, and it turns out that in New York you can't even do FanDuel golf for whatever
I saw
reason.
that. I saw that through one of the guys I follow on Twitter. I don't know if you follow the same guy, but yeah, I saw that. It was like, why? Why is that the case?
It's some weird, like, it wasn't a DFS sport like by a certain date for them, so they can't like add new sports because in New York it's like on probation, sort of like they're still figuring out regulations or whatever. So I don't know. They're just all.
But DraftKings is fine in New York,
right? Because DraftKings had it back then. Like at that date, they had it.
Okay,
so
I get the reasoning, I guess.
It's just weird.
It's silly. Anyway, we'll jump back into the slate. I just thought it was worth noting.
Yeah,
obviously
definitely.
FanDuel's new roster construction. I don't know if it definitely changes the dynamic a bit and how you approach, because all 8 of your golfers will now count for the entire, and certainly getting 8 of 8 through the cut. I mean, that's going to be one. That's going to be difficult. Second, if you do that, you got to have a huge edge. Even if they're 8 guys who just make the cut, it seems like you're going to have a huge edge over the competition.
Yeah, for sure. That's wild. If you're getting 8 of 8 through, that has to be, top 1% kind of stuff, because getting 6 of 6 through is hard. Even if you just pick 6 golfers, like forget about the salaries. Like if you just do like a made cut parlay and do 6 golfers and you get everybody through, like that's pretty legit. That's not easy to do. So for sure, that'll be interesting to see how that sort of shakes out over there.
So yeah, that's what FanDuel's doing now. So yeah, as I said, let's get back to these. Let's get back to this week's guys here. So yeah, our 10K and up golfers. Who are you on for the most? Obviously, okay, it's. I know that John Rahm is obviously going to be your highest exposure, but he's also going to be the highest exposure of most people playing this week.
Right, and I'm still going to be like well overweight. Like
he has 31 fan share tags as of Tuesday night.
Yeah. So I mean, he's clearly going to be like super owned, and like we've talked about, like it's for good reason. Honestly, I'm like, if I didn't look at the fan share tags, like, and they're all like, Dustin Johnson and Hideki are up there too with 23 each. And then Spieth and Day are a little bit lower at like the 12 to 14 range. I'm very curious to see how this actually shakes out, because I feel like people are kind of getting onto the fact that like you can reasonably guess ownership percentages through fan share tags. So I'm curious to see if they slowly become not that they're going to be like completely irrelevant, but like just sort of a little bit less useful, like not entirely correlated because people get onto more of like a game theory sort of deal. But I can't imagine not playing Rom. Like he's just always there. He literally had one bad round since like what, January? And he ejected from the players. Like, don't get me wrong, he shot like 82. Like that was horrible, but I looked it up before. He has like 39 out of his 52 rounds this year are under par. Like you really don't get many guys that are like that. Even like Spieth. Like I know he played well last week, but you're looking at a guy who missed two or three of his last like 6 cuts. So I'm still a little worried about Spieth. I think Day is the play for GPPs because it seems like he's sort of getting it together. And if these tags hold up and he's the lowest owned out of these top 5 guys, then I mean I'll take that all day. Mm-hmm. And there's so much value this week. Like there's so many guys in the 6,000, like high 6,000s and low 7,000s that I like, that I think I could probably figure out a couple of lineups where Rom and Day fit in and I can still like kind of do what I want, So that's something that I'm looking at now. I haven't built any lineups yet, but that's definitely a consideration right now.
Yeah, and there's a decent amount of value, I guess. Kind of like in the lower tiers here, there's someone at 7,900 who we'll talk about later on. Who can definitely provide us with enough value to maybe roster Rom and Day in the same lineups. Any type of love for Hideki Matsuyama?
Oh, I love him. I mean, I wrote him up in the playbook article this week. He's always done well with these fast greens, even though he's not really he's not known as a putter. He's not the best putter in the world, but he does well in these events. Just if you look at, like I said before, these top 3 between the Masters, the Memorial, and the Players, like that, he's performed well in all 3 of those tournaments, pretty much in every one of his starts. So he's definitely somebody that I'm interested in. It's just, how do I balance that? I feel like Hideki is like the cash game play for me. If he's going to be at that ownership, because I don't know if I'm not going to be able to fit him in as much as I would like. So I think he'll just be more cash for me.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's also going to have a decent amount of ownership to him.
Right. So especially I think he's fine if you want to throw in like 50-50s and head-to-heads and stuff. But for GPP, unless you really like him, I mean, you can go overweight on him because he's making cuts and he's playing well. So there's no reason not to, really. Yeah. But I just like Rom a whole lot more. And then Day for GPPs and Matsuyama for cash, I think is the move.
Okay. All right. So we'll dip down to this 9K tier where we have 4 golfers. We have Adam Scott at 98, Brooks Koepka at 97, Matt Kuchar at 94, and Pat Reed at 9,200. Where's the interest here? It seems like the ownership is going to be pretty spread out between these 4 guys. Really no clear cut. I think maybe Kuchar is always a great cash play, but elaborate on who you might want to roster in tournaments versus cash this week.
I mean, I sort of think the fan share tags say it all in this range. Like you can kind of make a case for any of these 4 guys. If I have to just pick one, regardless of GPP or cash, it's Kuchar, because he's going to hit fairways, he's going to hit greens, he's going to get up and down. Like he does all those things that you want. And again, last week, like we talked about it, whatever, how much upside does he have making birdies? But what was he, T12 last week? So, I mean, at a certain point, we just have to understand, like, yeah, he's not gonna get you an eagle, like, that, but he's gonna make the cut and he's gonna play 4 rounds and he's gonna end up in the top 25 every single week, it seems like. So, I mean, I'm having a hard time getting away from him. Um, Brooks, I'm not crazy about like his fit here. Like I like him, and I think he's been coming sort of into back into the form that we were sort of expecting of him coming into the year. But I mean, I don't know. Are you really that confident in him at an accuracy course like this? I don't know how you can be.
No, you
Like
can't be. No.
he played here 2 years ago and he was 52nd. So whatever, he made the cut, but like that's not like, oh, I don't think he's a good fit, but he ends up like actually mashing here. He only played it once, but still it hasn't happened. And now that I'm looking, Kuchar has all right, so he's only missed this tournament once since 2007. Fourth, 26th, 15th, won it, runner up, 8th, 5th, 10th, 13th. Like, that's elite course history. That's like Russell Knox at the RBC Heritage. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where you're clearly fitting that course. And I don't really want to trust Reed either. Like, it might just be Kuchar if I'm in this range. But I don't love it.
That's the thing, though. Like, is it Kuchar in cash and GPPs?
I think it can be, honestly. I'm getting to the point with this. I mean, how can you really say that he's not a good GPP play if he's going to be in the top 15 every week?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubting you there. It's just you can never like click on him in your DraftKings roster builds and just be like, that's my guy. That's my guy for tournaments.
Right.
You know, like,
and he's just like the anti-brand play for me too. Like I love bombers, and he's not that at all. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to be the one that's like, oh, he doesn't have as much upside, when I'm going to like throw darts at some other guys and miss the cut. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I can find the upside elsewhere. He's sort of like that anchor to your lineup where you're like, all right, well, I have 1 of 6 through right now. Like, you know that he's going to play on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know. I'm having a hard time balancing all of this like upside stuff, because yeah, it's great if a guy can go out and, shoot 63 and whatever else. But if he shoots 63 and then he shoots 83, you're screwed anyway. So what's the difference?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Any other notes here with this 9K range, or is that pretty much it?
No, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, again, Scott, you're talking about a guy who's a good ball striker, clearly, but he's just not doing it for me. Like, I'm not going to play him over like Rahm, and you know what I mean? Like, I'll find the $200 and play Hideki. I'm not crazy about Scott this week, even though it seems like he would sort of fit here, but I don't know. He's not my favorite. He hasn't played this tournament in a few years either. So, there's something to be said for that too, but that's kind of it for the 9,000s.
All right, so we'll drop down to this 8K range where we have Ricky Fowler, Jason Duffner, William McGirt, Emiliano Grillo, Ali Schneiderjans, Brian Harmon, and Bud Cauley. Who stands out? I mean, Ricky Fowler is definitely going to garner the most ownership.
Yeah.
In this range by a lot, and for good reason. I mean, he definitely has the accuracy with a 66.67 driving accuracy. He's got a 68.15 greens in regulation. I mean, the guy is pretty good for this course.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's sort of, I mean, not to the same extent right now, obviously, but he's having a good season, and he's sort of in like the Rahm boat of like, he does have distance, but he's also accurate. Like, I think he's 28th in driving distance and 29th in driving accuracy. That's not a thing that happens. Like, most people are really good at one and really bad at the other. Like there are very few guys that are in the top even 50 in both of those categories. So I think Fowler's a great play, but the problem is that everybody else thinks Fowler's a great play. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he won this week, honestly. I think he has, like, that's definitely in his range of outcomes, but I think he's got to be, I don't know. It's so hard in this range now. Like, you get through these, like, outside of the top, like, 10 guys, and what are you really, what do you want from a guy that's 8,900? Top 20, like top 15 you're hoping for, and I think that's very reasonable for him. So it's just a matter of balancing ownership.
And yeah, he's certainly going to be in that. He's definitely going to be owned. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
Yeah,
and I don't want.
But
no, I was going to say, and honestly, looking through the rest of these names in this range, like, meh. Like, I don't want a whole lot of it. Like, if I'm going to be playing somebody in this range, it's going to be him. Like,
what about, I mean, there are a few other guys that have similar accuracy to him in this range. You have, again, like, not as good, but like, you have William McGirt, who's got a pretty high driving accuracy percentage. And then you have Emiliano Grillo, who, again, pretty high driving accuracy, but not as good as greens in regulation.
Right. And I think that's the thing. Like, you're getting all of that from Fowler. So how much do you want to give up for that? And for, like, Grillo, like, yeah, he's great, and he probably would be a solid play. But if he's going to see almost the same ownership, I would rather sort of lean towards Fowler in that situation. Just because, I don't know, I'm trying to pull it up now. Like, bro, I don't know. He kind of bounces back and forth a little bit. Like, he was 24th last week and 11th at the Players, right? But then Wells Fargo, he's 42nd. Masters, he's outside the top 50. Arnold Palmer, he's back up to T7. In Mexico, he was 52nd out of 70-something guys. Like, he's much more of like a boom or bust guy, and I'm not going to touch him at that ownership if there's a legit chance that he's outside the top 40,
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard. I get you. Like, it's pretty hard to roster any other of these guys other than Ricky Fowler.
Yeah. I just think they're a little overpriced.
Yeah, I could see why Duff. I mean, I could see why you could say that. I mean, some of these guys are not supposed to be in the 8Ks.
Right. Like Ali and Harmon at those prices, like, they're 14th and 15th in salary, but like 27th and 36th in Vegas odds. Like, that's a pretty big discrepancy for a site who the odds are usually pretty in line with salary. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're giving up a little bit too much equity when you don't need to in this range. Like, I'm going completely studs and duds this week. Like, I'm just not interested in this little range.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the bold conviction. Yeah, it's a bad range this week. So yeah, we'll drop down to the 7K guys, where we have a good chunk of names here, because I mean, that's how the pricing normally works out. So we'll go with, like, I'll spit you out a few names here.
Okay.
Tony Finau, Webb Simpson, JB Holmes. How do you feel about the three of them? One of them is going to be much higher owned than the other two.
Yeah, I mean, Finau is like, can you explain to me why nobody talked about him last week? Like, I still don't understand this. 2 weeks ago, he was the chalk, and it's an accuracy course, and then his price goes down, and nobody's talking about him last week. And now this week, his price goes down again, and he's back to being chalk. Like
Mhm.
I can't figure out what anybody thinks about Finau. I love him. He'll be in my cash lineups. I'm not touching Holmes at all, and I think Simpson is the GPP play.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. For sure. What's really making Finau a chalk guy? I mean, he has horrible driving accuracy, but he has great greens in regulation. So I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fifth in greens and regulation on tour right now. So
Mm.
even though he can spray it a bit off the tee, he figures it out and recovers pretty well. Um, he doesn't have the best short game, like scrambling wise. It's dipped a little bit recently. But I mean, he'll do well on the par fives for you. Uh, reasonably well. He's sort of average there, but I mean, again, like this ownership shoots up, the price goes down, and you're kind of like, well, I had 40% of him last week. Now 30% is going to be like in his ownership in the double up. Like, where do you go from there?
Yeah, he's gonna be just insane with the ownership this week. Um, but yeah, I like the call on Webb Simpson. Has a lot better driving accuracy. Not as good as greens in regulation, but it's somewhat comparable. Um, let's drop down here to the $7,800 guys. We have Patrick Cantlay, Kevin Chappelle, and Scott Piercy. Um, I think Cantlay actually makes for a better pivot off of Finau than Webb Simpson does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I love Cantlay. He doesn't get a ton of starts because of his, eligibility. His status on the tour right now with the medical exemption and everything. But like every time he's in the field, he's done well this year. And you're talking about a guy who was kind of talked up like Spieth was coming out when he started his professional career. So he definitely has the pedigree, and he can win any tournament that he's in. He's super talented. If you just watch the guy swing, you can tell right away. I have no interest in Piercy. I think he's overpriced. And then Chappell is, he's fine, but I would rather just go overweight on Cantlay, and I'm just not going to be able to fit in Chappell into these lineups if I'm doing that. So that's kind of where I'm at there.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, Cantlay is probably the most comparable to Tony Finau in this price range you're going to get. There's another guy a little farther down who might be slightly better, but I don't know. I think Cantlay is definitely your guy there if you want to pivot off of Webb Simpson or Tony Finau. And then you can even save an extra $100 on that salary cap. So a solid pick there. Yeah, let's drop down a little further here at 7,700 where we see Phil Mickelson. This is weird just seeing him this cheap. It really is. He's 7,700 this week. Tommy Fleetwood and Kevin Streelman the same. Can we? I don't know. Are any of these guys good, for lack of a better term?
Well,
I don't know. I'm looking at it. It's just like I'm not comfortable rostering anyone here.
Yeah, I mean, Mickelson doesn't have the greatest course history here. He's kind of been up and down. He was like 20th last year, but he's like barely made the cut a couple years before that. So he's sort of been all over the place. I mean, again, for cash, like if you start your cash lineups with Kuchar and Mickelson, like you're starting off with those safe, like here are my first two guys. They're going to make it through to the weekend. But even going down, like I love Fleetwood, but I think he just play last week in Europe, I think, which gives me a little bit of pause. I don't know. I mean, I can't play any of these guys. Like Justin Thomas is $7,600. Like I don't. Like Justin Thomas and Kevin Kisner are $7,600, and Kevin Streelman is $7,700. Like,
Yeah,
there's
they're
clearly a
crazy.
glitch in their algorithm. Like, I'm very confused by this whole thing this week.
No, I can fully agree with that sentiment. It's some of these guys are priced really weird, and I, there's
Like,
there's really no way to take advantage of it.
Justin Thomas is 13th in the world, and he's 26th in salary this week.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see why he's cheap. As we go down further to these $7,600 guys, I can see why he's 7,600. As
Mm.
as well as Kevin Kistner and Adam Hadwin. Um, I mean, yeah, he doesn't. He's okay with his greens and regulation at 64.3%, but his driving accuracy is only at 53%, which I would think is cause for concern here, is it not?
I mean, if it wasn't, I don't know. I think
No,
if you're in
I,
the top
yeah.
20 in the world, like, you have no business being in the 7,000s, regardless of, like, unless you're Bubba Watson. Like, there's no I don't
Yeah.
know. I just don't get it. Like, Kisner just won last week. He's played well all year long, and he's 7,600 also. Hadwin's played well all year. He has a win this year also. Like, how are these guys less than Kevin Streelman? Like, not to pick on the guy, but they're less than Kevin Streelman and Scott Piercy. You're telling me that they're better golfers than those three guys? I don't know. I think that's wild.
Yeah, they're definitely calling it just based on course fit and stats because that's really what people are looking at. Um, Especially as DFS guys, we're definitely looking at some of these stats a lot more than maybe world rankings. Um, but yeah, I definitely Justin Thomas does have a knock on him with his driving accuracy, but if he can get over that issue for this week, he might be a decent play that goes very underowned.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and he has distance where he can hit 3-iron off the tee, and he's gonna be right near some of these shorter drivers anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a given that he's gonna be excuse me, that he's gonna be like bombing the ball off the tee and spraying it all over the place. Like, if he plays any sort of strategy and realizes that he needs to hit fairways, I think that he can dial it back a little bit and end up being a pretty good play. I just think he's way too cheap. Like,
oh yeah,
and then this
Kiss.
the next after that, it sort of like deadens out for me a little bit. But
I do want to. I mean, Kisner. I do like Kevin Kisner here
oh, for sure. I mean,
quite a bit.
he hits fairways, hits greens, gets up and down when he misses them. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing Kisner this week.
If you want to save, if you want to save 200 off of a guy like Finau, or what is it, 300? Yeah,
Yeah,
300.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
Kisner's definitely in a good spot here. Um, I don't think either of us have too much love for Hadwin this week. He's okay, and I think he's decent for a cash game, but I'm not liking it here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. Once I get past Kisner, honestly, the next couple $100, like, I'm trying to scroll through and try to find, like, like, the next guy that I even sort of like is like Russ Fisher at 7,100. Like, there's a little bit of like a dead range for me in that sort of stretch of guys all the way down to Fisher.
Yeah. Okay. So after that, say you get to Ross Fisher, which is where is he? He's 7,100. Where do you go after that? I mean, I hit Lucas Glover. I think Lucas Glover is in a decent spot as well this week.
You love yourself some Lucas Glover.
I love the tilt for whatever reason. I love the tilt, and he's such a great FanDuel play. He really is because he's always going to go low owned because people are scared of him, and when he's on his little birdie streaks, he just does so well to the point where he just makes himself such a great FanDuel play. It's just a great play overall, but still, like, he just makes himself such a great FanDuel play with the low ownership he garners
Yeah.
and his high birdie upside.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been playing good golf lately. His course history isn't the best. Um, I mean, he's played this tournament every year since 2007, and he's made half the cuts, and he's never finished better than 33rd. Again, that's not to say like, oh, I can't play him now, but it is worth noting because sometimes there's these weird little quirks where sometimes the course just doesn't fit your eye the way that you'd hope. But he's priced, I think, a little lower than he could be. Like he could be up towards like 7,400, 7,500. And, like we said, he's been playing reasonably good golf, and he definitely has birdie upside. So somebody worth considering. And then, God, I mean, there's just, I don't know, man. I feel like I shouldn't like some of these guys that I like because of their price, but I just don't get why they're priced where they're at. Like you keep going and you run into like, I mean, JJ Spawn, I think is a decent play this week. I don't know. It's just like then you have all these accurate guys down here, like Zach Johnson. I know he's not playing great, but he's accurate. Zach Johnson, you have like, again, not guys that you're loving, but like DA Points has been accurate. He's played better. He's sort of a punchline, but like he's played well. Pat Perez is all the way down here. Like Charles Schwartzel's down here. Peter Uihlein is good. Like all these guys in this range are like, I don't know. I just feel like the pricing is really weird this week.
Mm-hmm. It really is. I don't know why.
I mean, and then like 6,700, all these guys like Billy Horschel, Brendan Steele, Cabrera Bello, like how are these guys this cheap? Like I truly don't understand how some of these guys are priced where they're at.
Here's a name I want to throw at you. Peter Uihlein.
Yeah.
6,800.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm on him at this point.
You have to be. I mean, the guy, this is one of those, to be fair, again, this is one of those weird things where you're talking about like an American guy who plays mostly in Europe and he hasn't been over here. He played in the BMW last week in Europe. So you're not like, that always gives me a little bit of pause, like these guys that are traveling so much. But I mean, if there's a guy that fits the course at 6,800, when he's come over here, he's hitting over 75% of his greens, when he's played in the US. So, I mean, if you want to poke holes in that guy, good luck. Like he hits fairways, he hits greens, he gets up and down, he scores well on par fives. Like, I don't think there's a guy with more upside in this like price range.
Okay, that's definitely a fair assessment. He's in a really good spot this week. I mean, who else are you really on outside? Like anywhere around in that $6,800 price point, or just really anyone else on the slate? Oh man, I see it.
See it?
Yeah, I see it. Where is Smiley Kaufman on the price chart here?
6,600, way underpriced according to Vegas.
Okay.
81st in salary and 44th in odds to win.
Oh man,
we gotta throw some darts, man.
Yeah, there's definitely a big discrepancy between his salary and his Vegas odds to win. I mean, I'll look at the stats here. I'm not sure if I'm in love with the spot.
Don't do it to yourself.
To be honest with you. I mean, I like the guy. I like Smiley Kaufman himself. He's a good guy. But I don't know if I like the spot entirely.
Finished T20 here last year. He's back to form after his wrist injury. I don't know, man. I got a good feeling about this one.
Hey, if you want to do it, be my guest.
Oh, it's happening. The only person who I feel better about a little bit lower is my man Kevin Tway.
I like Kevin Tway.
How can
I
you
have nothing
not?
against that.
Honestly, what like how is this guy priced? Like I feel like we need like a drop of that. We need to start like getting a producer and we just need a drop of me saying, "How is this guy this price?" Because it's an outrage. Like it's ridiculous. How is he that
Yeah.
price?
No, I get you. I get you. It's again,
He's
this is just a really weird slate where some guys are just really cheap.
he's T3, T5, T20, T18 in his last 4 starts.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Like
definitely get you.
oh my god, I don't know. It's just bugging me because I feel like it's just not, and I mean everybody's talking him up. I just noticed his fan share tag. So I guess the cat's out of the bag on that one. But like, how is Mackenzie Hughes higher priced than him? Like, what is going on?
There's obviously something in there.
Like Kevin Streelman is $1,200 more than him. How is that possible?
Well,
I don't like it at all.
what
And
worked
then
last time with all the pricing when people were having issues with pricing, we just added John Aguiar a bunch of times.
oh yeah.
So if that's the route we want to go to fix pricing in the future.
No, I just wish no one else realized it. You know?
Yeah. No, I feel
That'd be
I feel it. I feel you on that one.
And then other than that, at this point, you're kind of like, meh. I mean, if you want like really throwing a dart on a guy who's just played horribly, but he's costing you nothing, like Russell Knox, maybe. Because if he puts 4 rounds together and he's $6,300 with the class of golfer that he really is, like that's gonna be insane. You can fit anybody with him. And he's 35th in the world. Like, but he's just not playing well. But if you're just going to throw in like 2 lineups with him in a GPP just to see what happens, I think that's a good play.
Yeah, I have nothing against it at all. No issue at all. Who else do you want to talk about here? Because I don't really see many other guys that are in great spots or even good spots for that matter.
Yeah, no, that's I'm not even really throwing darts at anybody else in this range. Like,
okay,
it's that's pretty much it for me.
All right. Well, I guess that does it for us. This has been the Bogey Free podcast for the Memorial Tournament this week. If we're not winning all of the money, we hope you guys do. So good luck in all of your contests this week.